What's up, guys? Welcome to Reawaken Your Competitive Spirit, the After Action Report, a very special edition because we got the guy right here who inspired me to lose 100 pounds. And we are going to be talking about all sorts of stuff going on right now. We are talking to four-time world MMA Trainer of the Year, Mike Dolce. What's up, Mike?
What's up, Marty? Thanks for having me on, brother. Appreciate being here, and happy to be engaging with your audience, man. It's an honor.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate it because I tell the story all the time, and I know I must have spouted off the Dolce diet principles about 10 billion times here and there across the land, but it changed my life so much. You changed my life so much. So could you just let our audience know what your background is in health and wellness?
I've been working at the age of 17, I opened my personal training business at that time. I was always more of a strength coach working with athletes, not so much what I call a clipboard holder. And we all know those guys and gals. They walk around the fitness centers, they got their little clipboard, they kind of, tell their client what to do, and they don't really pay attention. They're not very engaged. I was always very engaged regardless of the person I worked with, and that was at 17. At 13, I was a varsity wrestler in high school, so I was a freshman who made the varsity team. I was nominated as a captain, so I was a 4-year captain, a 4-year varsity wrestler in high school, and that really, I think, lent itself to my confidence as a leader with regards to health and fitness. I was one of the smaller guys on the team, but I was one of the hardest working. I knew more about strength, conditioning, nutrition at that time than really everybody else. The coaches would have me run the conditioning work. I was overseeing the weight cuts even at that young age, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, for the older guys, the guys that would drive me around, the seniors and whatnot. So that was kind of the genesis. I studied biology. I was studying clinical nutrition. And then I decided it wasn't for me. I wasn't really cut out for the academic environment. I was much more of a practical enthusiast. I wanted to be in the gyms. I wanted to be in people's houses. I really wanted to interface with humans in real time. I didn't enjoy the classroom setting. At all. Not that I don't respect it, not that I don't respect the academics of it, but it just didn't suit itself for me. And then, in a way, I found that a lot of what was being taught was wrong. Now, the basic, principles of biology, biochemistry, sure, that's all, real and intact. But I found I had these very unfit, very unhealthy, rather overweight teachers and also students that were studying nutrition. And I was kind of shocked, and all their theories were impractical. All their thoughts of what was possible, I was proving wrong in the real world every day. I was a high level wrestler, amateur wrestler, a high level power lifter, and then kind of continued through the world of combat sports. So I was, even at that young age in my teens, I was working with elite athletes, state champions, national champions, world champions at that stage, and everything I was being taught was wrong. So I saw it as really just a waste of time in many ways. Now I went through and I got a bunch of certifications from different agencies, and I always continue education. In fact, we now teach a continuing education course here that you've gone through, and we are one of the largest continuing education providers for the certifying bodies such as the NSCA, which is the most reputable, physical training, strength and conditioning certification in the United States. You have to be an NSCA CSCS in many ways to work in any college setting, any professional setting. And we offer curriculum to actually coach those coaches, the NASM, NASM, and the AFAA. So kind of it really had come full circle where we still now, we coach the coaches, we teach the basic tenets at a college level of nutrition and dietetics, but we also open up the practical side of like, all right, here's all the basic stuff you guys need to know. Now let's move this aside. Here's how to actually produce results. Here's how it really works. Here's how to engage with clients. Here's how to overcome all these obstacles and challenges to get your people to really start seeing results. So that's a little bit of the background. And of course, I've had a rather large career arc since my late teens, and now here I am in my early 40s.
Right. And one of the things back in the day, listening to your own personal story about your 100-pound weight loss was, the thing that actually got me up and going. Could you tell us a little bit about that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was working as a suit and tie professional. I was still running my strength coach and nutrition business on the side. I was working in municipal finance. You know, I'm a math guy and a science guy, and that always came easy for me. So I was able to get a very good job working in municipal finance. Hold on, excuse me. So, and with that, I was behind a desk. I was powerlifting. I was consuming calories. My goal was to squat, first it was 500 in high school. I squatted 525 at 17 years old. Then it was 600, then 700, then 800. In order to do that without taking drugs, you have to gain body mass. So I went from being a 181-pound competitive powerlifter. I mean, I started my wrestling career at 125, competing. So I went from, in wrestling, I went from 125 to 152 to 189 to heavyweight. I graduated high school at 210 pounds, but I was still competing as a 181, 198 competitor as a powerlifter. I hit the numbers I wanted to hit at those weights, and then I wanted to move up. So then I moved up to the 220 class, then the 242 class, and then the 275 class. I added a ton of body weight through my early to mid 20s. I was 282 pounds at my peak, working the suit and tie job. I then take the train, from New Jersey up to New York City. I'd work with Renzo Gracie and Team Renzo Gracie and all the great combat athletes up there. And I was still training myself in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, having the wrestling background. But I was a power lifter, and I was morbidly obese. And I was getting ready for a competition, and I had a good job, and I had good health care, and I had my regular yearly checkup. I go to the doctor, and she runs all the tests, and I'm like, I'm 26 years old or whatever. I'm in my mid 20s. I feel like a monster. I feel like a beast. It's so strong. The weights were easy, and I was a 500 plus pound bencher, a 700 plus pound deadlifter. The weights were easy for me, and I had this false sense of confidence in my own health. So as she's running the tests, and the tests come back, and she's like, "You are a very stupid boy." And she's this tiny little Asian lady, and maybe she weighed 100 pounds, tiny but brilliant. And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You are a very stupid boy. Like, what are you doing to yourself?" And like, she just starts rattling off. I had, high blood pressure. I had sleep apnea, borderline hypertension. My cholesterol was all over the place. My shoulder, the waist circumference was off. My BMI was way off. And she's like, "You need to stop. You have the health profile of a very sick middle-aged man, and you're a boy. Like, you need to figure this out immediately." And that, I remember driving home thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing? What am I? And I knew in the back of my mind, because I have all the background, I knew I was letting my ego get in the way, and I was letting a little bit of the lazy American lifestyle get in the way. It was too easy. It was easy for me to just order a pizza every night. I'd order a pizza. I'd throw a pound of cheese on top of the pizza. I'd finish the entire thing by myself. I would eat half a gallon of ice cream, and then I'd have a king-size Snickers bar. That's the way I would unwind after like my meals. And I would have hit my big, weight workout, my squat workout or whatever it is at like 6 o'clock. I get out at 8 o'clock. I go with my buddies to the local steakhouse or something. We'd crush these big meals, go home, shower, whatnot. And I'd order the pizza, and that's what I would eat before bed. What a lazy, gluttonous lifestyle that was. And yeah, the bar was moving, and I justified it by, well, I'm an athlete, I'm a performance athlete. So that drive home was an immediate paradigm shift for me. I realized immediately what I was doing was completely wrong. I needed to make a change. And that's exactly what I did. So instead of, performance-based nutrition, as I call it, just simply focused on the bar weight, simply focused on, getting across the finish line faster than everybody else, I focused on a longevity-based approach to performance. And that was the genesis of Living Lean, which I wrote about. And that's probably, you're aware of the Living Lean book. I, kind of talked about my weight loss from there. So the Living Lean program that we have now, that we promote now, that's based upon my own, and it was 113 pounds because I peaked at 282, and I went all the way down to 169 pounds where I fought professionally in the IFL and, Ultimate Fighter and kind of all that stuff. So that was part of the genesis, and that's where our 3 weeks to shredded program kind of came in and all that.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, and that was the story that got me off my ass back in the day. And you talk about that ease of access to junk, essentially, and more of what we talk about here usually is like what happens to you once your athletic career is over and you don't really have that reason to get up and go immediately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, very true.
So moving on from that, what are the principles that you live by? What can everyone use here?
So, nutritionally, we have the Dolce diet principles, and ours is not a template dietary program. It's not exclusionary. It's not restrictive. Like everything else out right now, we see the extreme versions of fasting. We see keto. We see carnivore. We even see paleo right now. So all these are their exclusionary, restrictive, fad dietary practices, and that cultivates a system of disordered eating. We don't prescribe to any of that. And from the time that you stumbled upon us all the way back to me being in my mid-20s, 20 or so years, we've said the same thing, which is number one is we eat earth-grown nutrients, whole foods. When I say earth-grown, I mean food that was naturally raised and born of this planet, unmolested by man, right? No synthetic chemicals and toxins and pesticides and antibiotics and hormones, to the best of our ability in this modern world to procure that type of food. And just to get a picture, if I could walk out into my backyard, if I could, line catch or net scoop a fish out of the stream, if I could pull an apple off the tree, if I could dig a potato from the ground, that's what I want my food to be. That's where I want to get it, as close to the point of consumption as possible. Like if I can get an apple from the tree in my backyard, that is ideal. Now, if I have to live in on the East Coast, if I have to get it from Georgia or Florida, fine, that's okay. California, yeah, I'll deal with that. Mexico, Costa Rica, the farther away it gets, the lower the net nutrient quality becomes. And sometimes wintertime, we have to do that. That's not a bad thing. But in our minds, as close to home as possible, as fresh as possible, as earth grown as possible, as unmolested by man's greedy hands as possible. It's a great way for our community to understand these food choices. Number two is we eat every 2 to 4 hours based upon activity. And this is where the fasting thing goes out the window. It's every 2 to 4 hours. And fasting, it talks about how, oh, you lose so much weight when you're fasting. I say, look at bodybuilders, right? Who's leaner than bodybuilders? Who sustains more or holds more lean muscle tissue than bodybuilders, right? They have more lean muscle, per square inch of height. They have dramatically lower body fats than nearly any other athlete on the planet. And how often do they eat? They typically eat 4 to 8 times a day with an average of 6 meals per day. If fasting worked, bodybuilders would prescribe to it. It doesn't. And this is where kind of the academic, philosophies and teachings really go out the window, because you get these, lab coats that they point to one bullet point, like they did with keto. They pull one bullet point they'll point to, and they'll build their whole argument about that. That becomes a straw man argument. That's not the way it actually works here. We eat every 2 to 4 hours based upon activity. And what we say is very simple. Well, what did you just do that you have to recover from? Repair from? What are you about to do that you have to prepare for, pre-fuel for? Now, we're always aware of maybe like a 3-day window of getting all the basic vital micronutrition throughout our day. And that's where the wide variety and rule number one comes: earth-grown nutrients from a wide variety. That's really where it comes. Why I want apples and oranges and grapes and carrots and avocado and cherries and pomegranate and just this wide variety, not just chicken rice broccoli like a lot of people do. No way. We want as much variety as possible. So number one is earth-grown nutrients. Number two is we eat every 2 to 4 hours based upon activity. Number three, we eat until we're satisfied, not until we're full, because I can eat again in 2 hours. I don't need to overburden and this is the science behind it, I don't need to overburden my digestive tract, which causes an impaired ability for the body to actually break down that bulk, that raw bulk matter that just entered. Very difficult to break all of that down, to assimilate it, and then to partition it and put it where it needs to go in an efficient manner. If we eat too much food, too many calories, too much raw bulk materials at one time, the body simply can't deal with it, and we end up being in a nutrient deficiency. This is where the intermittent fasting concept goes out the window. I eat about 3,200 calories a day on the average day. If I were to eat that in one meal, if I was following a fasting window, if I was eating that one meal a day, or even in a 6-hour window, I can't eat 3,000 calorie meals spread over 6 hours. I can't consume that many calories in that short a time with my body being able to break that food down and send it where it needs to go. You can't deal with that much bulk matter. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, when people think about it, they're like, oh, yeah, That's right. I say it's like, you know, I'm building a house. I worked in construction. If I'm building a house and we get a lumber delivery, and I got one guy on the crew that has to get all this lumber cleared, sorted, and put where it needs to go, you know, in a shift in one day. It's not happening. Now, if I have 6 guys or 8 guys, or if I have one guy that gets, you know, every 2 hours, he gets a small load that comes in, or he's got 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, he's got a small working crew, right? You know, a bunch of laborers, a bunch of journeymen. We can get that done easily because now it becomes an efficient process. Very similar with the digestive system, except the digestive system is worse. It's very difficult. It's very challenging. Stress matters. Activity matters. Did I just do a hard workout? Am I a little sick? You know, my girl driving me crazy. That interrupts your ability to digest. Not that Brandy ever drives me crazy, but nothing, right? Right? I know Amanda never drives you crazy. What's that?
Smooth recovery.
Exactly. I know, right? So those are the basic tenets. If you follow those 3 rules, you're going to be 90% of the way to your goal. And then the last 10%, then we can get a little bit more specific. We can start, you know, carb cycling. You know, you can have, you know, a little bit more carbs on day 1, a little bit less on day 2, super, you know, refeed on day 3, back to lower on day 4. We can start playing with some of that to now hit the targets of, oh, I want to enter a powerlifting competition. I want to do a CrossFit meet. I want to get into an MMA fight. I want to, you know, run a marathon or a half marathon or a 10K, whatever it might be. I want to, you know, slip into a bikini or board shorts because I'm going on vacation. That's the last 10%.
Absolutely. And I remember one of my fears back in the day with wanting to lose weight or go on a diet, which, you know, it's a lifestyle is what actually makes the change. But one of my fears was like, oh, I'm going to have to starve, or I'm going to have to eat just chicken and broccoli. And it's like, it's just not true. I mean, I lost 100 pounds eating just like you said. I dropped from the mid 150s, about 153, down to fight at 135 easily.
Yeah.
So not excluding anything, fully fed, fully hydrated, everything.
And it's crazy that people don't think that's possible because they've been so brainwashed by these false fitness experts. And most of the people in the fitness world, unfortunately, they either don't know what they're talking about, which is dangerous. They're telling people to do the wrong stuff, or they do know what they're talking about. They're just intentionally manipulating the marketplace. And that's even more dangerous, right? Because then it really just becomes about their money. So both of them, you know, both of those types, it's up to we, the individuals, the consumer, to really sit back and understand. And I what I try and tell everybody is like, listen, all the information that you're getting out there, really, if there's somebody that you love, some, you know, a diet coach, a nutrition expert, or fitness trainer, that's great. Pay attention to them. Listen to what they say. Go back through their catalog, through their YouTube channels, through their Instagram, through their website, through their blogs and vlogs and articles. What were they talking about 2 years ago? What were they talking about 2 years before that? If you see a wide divergency of what they were saying, you know, there's people that they were talking about, you know, paleo. And then it was, well, no, macros. And it was, well, keto. And it was, well, fasting. How are you going to listen to this person? Right?
Yeah.
How are you going to listen to this person when every 2 years? And why I say 2 years is because that's basically the life cycle of these fad diets. These fad diets, they basically have an 18 to 36 month arc. Think about keto. How often do you hear about keto anymore?
Not very.
Not very. A year ago, everywhere. 2 years ago, it was crazy. It peaked about 2 years ago or so, and then it kind of started to tail off. Now, I think 3 years ago this month, I did a video saying 3 years from now, keto will be gone and a more exclusionary, restrictive dietary practice would take its place. Well, that's kind of the double-headed dragon of fasting and carnivore. Carnivore kind of was born out of keto, which is a more restrictive version of keto, right? And then fasting is, again, a more restrictive version of kind of that mentality of just reduction. You know, because it doesn't work. People are chasing this weight loss goal that doesn't work. It's like, well, I'm going to go paleo and I'm going to kind of eat, you know, 60% of the foods, healthy foods I normally would. Well, fuck, that didn't work. So, because they cut oats, they cut rice. I mean, tons of things they cut. My buddy Rob Wolf, who wrote the Paleo Solution, was very honest about saying, like, listen, paleo, you know, kind of, it's a good maybe transition for people who are like overweight, eating all that processed food. He's like, but I eat rice. And he kind of like really started to open the door and go through his own genesis, and lots of others out there. So kind of the paleo window closed even more and became the keto window, which was now like 20% of the food list, which closed even more and became the carnivore, window, which is now just meat. But you see a lot of the carnivore advocates, they eat, quote, just meat, but they eat cheese. They eat, they will have their refeeds, their carb days, which is just kind of a proof to me that their program doesn't actually work. And most of it's just, they're just fanning the flames of their marketing engines.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't fully understand until I spent quite a bit of time studying marketing and seeing what was actually going on in the way that, many people were misleading intentionally people just with the power of it.
Bro, it sucks, man. It gets me so mad. I tell you, I lost friendships as a result of this, because some of my friends out there in the industry, whether they're professional acquaintances or people that, we would text back and forth, I'd see them jump the shark, and I'm not changing what I'm saying. I'm not, I had opportunities to become keto guy. I got tons of money thrown at me to endorse this keto product or all these other products, these macro-based products, or, sucralose, aspartame, artificial sugar sweetened products. We've never jumped the shark. We've never sold out to chase that short-term money. And a lot of these people who have, man, they got fucking pissed at me because I'm not changing my tune. And I was calling out their business practices were deceptive. I mean, it's terrible. And I would be like, why don't you just tell the truth? They're like, man, there's no money in the basics. Well, I disagree. Because we've been able to run a long-term cash flow positive, very successful business. Now, we don't have the massive peaks like some of them have during these short-term fad phases. We're very kind of, we're more slow growth, very diligent as we go across. And these companies, they go up and then they crash and they disappear. Then they have to completely redefine themselves, become something brand new. And that's what you see. And that bothers me because it only hurts the population. No more people are lighter now, leaner now, healthier now in a group setting than they were 3 years ago before keto came out. And when I tell everybody that was like, well, we want to try your diet, Dolce, but what about keto? I say, well, do you know anyone who's done keto? They're like, oh yeah, my whole office did. I say, well, how they doing? Like, oh, well, they don't follow it anymore. Shirley gained more weight, or Steve couldn't do it anymore. This one got really sick while he was on it. That's what we're talking about. Now, who gets sick eating earth-grown nutrients in wide varieties, local, organic, freshly prepared, and really you make your choice. If you want to be a vegan, that's fine. Eat your vegan stuff. I would like to see you have a little bit of meat. I kind of urge you to be a little more, vegetarian, lacto-avo, pescatarian. I'll kind of urge you a little bit, but if that's a philosophical, ethical thing, I'm not going to argue with people on that. Scientifically, physiologically, now we do need these animal products. So that's what we try and do. We educate, but we will never change our principles. We evolve as time goes. We'll evolve our techniques, our tactics, our grocery list will evolve just a little bit. It's like, we used to, talk about grapeseed oil. Now avocado oil is available. So now we promote avocado oil instead of grapeseed oil. So you'll see small little evolutions like that as we go across. Grass-fed beef was not around when we wrote when we wrote Living Lean back in 2011. Now it's everywhere. It's easy to get. That's why I went from, eating meat, healthy, lean meat as organic as possible, to now it's like the grass-fed, the wild caught, which is much more prevalent.
Right. I remember back in that time frame too. I mean, living in Mississippi, like you would say grass-fed beef and people would laugh at you or just not know anything, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So
very common.
But now it's everywhere. It's easy to get. So and I tell you what has not changed over the last several years, and that is I've eaten breakfast bowl pretty much every day.
Pretty much. Mine. Yep. That doesn't change, right? It doesn't. Why would it change? If it worked 20 years ago, it's going to work today. That's the crazy thing.
It keeps working. I feel great all the time.
Hell yeah.
And I feel like that's the big pivot point of the whole thing. It's like it sets you up for success the rest of the day.
Yep.
So with current events going on, are there any special considerations we should know about during the coronavirus outbreak and quarantine?
Yeah, brother. It's scary times. It's scary because there's uncertainty. I have a lot of friends in the health and fitness field, a lot of friends in the medical field that I speak to. They are not concerned globally about the virus itself damaging, wiping out the population. They have very high expectations of full recovery for the vast majority of those who are afflicted with the virus. What their concern is the strain on resources being an issue that creates problems down the road. So the social distancing, we've been talking about that for a while now, and we were saying, not that, I'm certainly not the arbiter of what people should or shouldn't do, but almost a month ago, we pulled our kids from school because we saw this coming. It's already flu season. There's some things going around. We have toddlers, young kids. There's a lot more sickness, illness at that age and stage, right? It's every day. Our daughter would come home with a little something since like November or so. It's the season. But we saw this stuff coming. We're like, this is going to make its way here. We got young kids. It's not like they're going to miss their placement exams, their LSATs, getting into college or anything. But even still, we would have pulled them, and we would have switched on to a homeschool protocol, which we're heavily considering now moving into the future, simply because we've seen a lack of leadership from local, county, state, federal, medical advisory boards. This isn't political. This is apolitical. We lean on politicians thinking they know more than we do. We lean on politicians and quote experts thinking they have our best interests at heart. They don't on an individual basis. Number one, they're trying to protect their jobs, their titles, their budgets, their 401ks, their salaries, their position, right? They're humans. So they're trying to protect their position first and foremost. And then they're trying to do their job, but they're doing the job based upon statistics, based upon large group numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I'm very aware of this. So a lot of what they're putting out there was based upon large groups. I'm more concerned about my family. I'm concerned about the 4 souls that are living inside the walls of my house. And then my neighbors. So I kind of start internally, and then I start to, my neighbors, my town, my city, and I kind of expand from there. And that's the information that we putting out. So we pulled our kids, we started stocking up, to the best of our ability on some of the basics. We have, water, and we have, filtration systems and things like that. And we have the quinoa and rice and black beans. And, fortunately we have, our freezer is full right now of good meats. So we did all of that stuff, but we already started to employ social distancing. I kind of, pushed away any sort of face-to-face, clients that I would have. Same thing with my wife. We stopped going to church, kind of respectfully, and just kind of, pulled away back late February, kind of early into March. And this is just kind of like the preamble into what's happening now, because you could see it. You could, if you pay attention to the numbers, you could slowly see it starting to come. And I'm not as worried about the virus, or even I don't want to get it, but should I get it, I'm not as worried about it. I'm worried about all these fucking idiots, pardon my language, that I'd be driving down the street and I would see all these idiots in bars and in nightclubs and in restaurants and in cafes, all just sitting out, hanging out, buddy, pal. I drive by parks a week ago, and you just see there's 20, 30 kids in the parks. There's 20, 30, 40 parents. All just a big pile of germs just swimming around on top of each other. And my wife and I were like, what the fuck are these people thinking? Now, that's when it was already here. It already hit. We've already had deaths in the United States. The numbers were going up every day. Some schools were already being shut down. And all these people, they're like, oh, well, get outside. I got outside. And now they go outside and they're hanging out. They're going to the bowling alley. Like, bowling alley is packed. There's 2. Like 5 miles apart from each other. They're both packed. Like the big, bounce houses where you bring all the kids. Packed. It's like, oh, the kid can't be in school, so I'm going to bring them to this other place for all these germs to just kind of all rub off on each other. So that type of mentality is scary. So that's kind of where we were now. And unfortunately, we have these kind of government suggested, if not mandated, quarantine, social isolation, businesses shutting down. That's a scary thing right now. Businesses shutting down, which means what? People aren't getting paychecks. The small business owners are the ones I'm most scared about. The guy who owns a coffee shop across the street, great guy, great business. How long can his door stay shut? He's got to pay his landlord, right? Mm-hmm. Like the restaurateurs that are around, they maybe bought a week's worth of food supply to go out that they're going to all lose that inventory. Their staff, the baristas, the barbacks, the waiters, the waitresses, the cooks, the chefs, the dishwashers, they got to go a couple weeks without paychecks now. Do they have enough funds to get the groceries they need to keep themselves, their family safe? And then, well, they got bills and car payments and all the things that we all have. That's my secondary concern. It's not as much about getting sick from the virus, which is important. And we all know we got to do the hand washing. I'm a germaphobe, so I'm fucking, my hands are always dry as shit from washing them a million times. I take 3 showers a day. I change my clothes 3 different times a day, all this stuff, right? You know, I'm that dude. So my weirdness has finally prepared me. But at the same time, we just need greater understanding. And I think there needs to be apathy towards our neighbors and to what's happening right now. And there's not a lot of that. Everybody's scared. So everybody's a little more closed off and aggressive instead of being more open and positive, you know, kind of warm, waving to your neighbors, smiling, you know, kind of doing that whole thing. So, you know, I'm just like you. I don't know really much more than anybody else listening right now. But I have a very, very positive look on this, but I do say we must prepare for the worst with the positive hope and intention of the best outcome, because we're only going to get the best outcome if we do everything like the extremes right now. And I think that's what we're getting towards as a culture.
Right. Totally with you there. It's super important that we shift. I mean, luckily for me, I was already pretty extreme introvert and had gotten into working on online type of stuff. So not too much has changed for me, but I do worry about the supplies in the grocery store and things like that, and all the other things you mentioned. But in light of being the ray of positivity, you have something amazing going on. And as far as working out in home, can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, you know, once we saw what's happening, you know, it was, and I was like, hey guys, you know, take it easy. Let's be careful. Stop freaking out. Let's have some fun. And I tried to keep like a humorous approach to delivering the exact same information I'm giving you right now. Hygiene is huge. Social distancing is huge. Consider pulling your kids from school. You know, let's start to really isolate your family. Let's pull back into your homes, but trying to do so with a little bit of fun. As things have gone on, people really didn't take any of the world's advice seriously. What's going on in Italy, of course, is a scary situation. And now everybody is home. So what we did 2 things. The first thing was, so we have an online membership platform, which, you know, it's the #1 rated weight loss program on the planet at thedolcediet.com. We offered a 50% discount to anybody who wants to be a part of it. That's promo code healthy. You will save 50%. Your audience, if they can, and this is for the people who want something very specific. It's on their phone, their tablet, their laptop, very specific. It's personalized. Every meal, every recipe, every workout, every exercise, video tutorials, it's all there for you. And we've never given out a discount this big. This thing sells itself. It's awesome. It crushes it. We have tens of thousands of people around the world using it. But we said people, they need motivation to be healthy, because we know the healthier you are, the more resilient you are to the virus, right? That's what all the doctors say. The more fit you are, the more resilient you are to getting sick. So it's like, God dang, people, get out. Let's get healthy. Let's figure out ways to move your body. So inside that platform, it has everything people need to really start to change their health habits. We've also launched a page on Facebook called Mike Dolce's In-Home Fitness Workouts. This page will start delivering daily in-home workouts for people. I mean, I did one yesterday where, like, I had a tiny little kettlebell, my wife's kettlebell. It's like a 4 kilo, 8-pound kettlebell. And then I said, you know what? Forget this. Here, I'm just going to use a gallon of water. Just a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds, basically the same as the kettlebell. So here's some in-home resistance-based exercises that you can do. And it was 4 minutes. So it was 4 minutes of exercise, 4 minutes of rest, 1 minute on, 1 minute off. And then you can, if you're a beginner, do 1 time, round 1. You're a little more advanced, do 2, 3, 4, up to 5 rounds of doing it. So every day I'll be adding more workouts. Coaches like yourself, we put out a blast. We have 200 certified coaches inside our system. We put out a blast to all of our coaches saying, hey guys, give me a workout, give me an exercise. Let's get some great content on this page. So anybody who wants to go, it's just Mike Dolce's In-Home Fitness Workouts. It's a completely free resource for everyone to start participating in these bodyweight centric exercises.
Amazing. So go and check that out on Facebook, guys. I'm going to be contributing some workouts and exercises to that. I'm super excited about it, as well as my home gym right now.
Um,
I'm the fitness kickboxing guy. So
Nice. Oh, perfect. Love it, man. That's what's great is having you and our coaches like be you, your personality, like what makes you tick. Because what I do, maybe some people don't want to do the stuff I do. And that's awesome. There's a flavor for everybody. So the more of our amazing coaches that put more content on there, I'm super pumped for it.
I am too. Well, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you so much, Mike, for coming on here. I can never thank you enough for the role you've played in changing my life. But thank you for stopping by and doing this interview for us.
Marty, it's a pleasure and an honor, my friend. I'm so happy for you and Amanda, so proud of your journey from the first day I met you guys all the way to today, what you guys are doing to help change the world, man. So I'm honored to play a small part in your story.
Thank you so much. And remember, guys, you're one upgrade away.